When did you realize your friend was toxic? When he brought his totally cool friends over. And then they stole some of my stuff and he defended them. Did they steal weed up? I feel like these types of strangers always steal your weed up. When confronted. It's too chill. I'd let you smoke my weed up. But they never have their own weed up. She told me she was cheating on her husband. While laughing about how funny it was that her boyfriend would come over to the house and hang out with her husband and her and their newborn. After I told her that wasn't cool and we weren't friends anymore. She told everyone that I was sleeping with her husband and an abusive drunk. Note all. Happy ending, dad divorced and got full custody. I got new friends. Backhanded compliments. Also comments that she is amazing, thinly veiled as a put down. Almost like fishing for compliments. I didn't want to hang out with her anymore when I realized I never felt good after spending time with her. She started copying me. Everything about me. It was something straight out of Single White Female. She started using my frequent phrases. Tried to pick up all my hobbies. And started dressing exactly like me. The final straw was when she started getting really possessive when I would hang out with people without her and tried to turn me against all my other friends. We aren't friends anymore. But everyone tells me she's still obsessed with me and talks about how I abandoned her to anyone who will listen. I lived with her and realized one day on the way home from work that I had more anxiety about going home to her than anything else in my life. She also tried to sheet talk about me to my boyfriend. Oh my god. It sounds terrible to be afraid to go back to your home because your so-called friend is waiting there for you. I assume that you moved out? Yes. I moved out, and about an hour away from her, and I feel so much better. What makes it worse better is that she hasn't really contacted me since I moved out. Even though I left on good terms. She doesn't realize she's a bad friend and a toxic person, and I don't know if I have the guts to tell her. When he started defining friendships as people who are blindly loyal to him and his actions. She tricked one of my friends that she was pregnant with their child. And used my phone to do it. She used to steal my phone while I was sleeping and text my friend, guy she hooked up with, pretending to be me. Saying she'd like OMG is throwing up again this morning and various other pregnancy things to convince the guy. She was not pregnant and 100% knew she wasn't. When they stole my Adderall prescription. Tried to help me find it. It was stolen during a party we threw. Then spent the next few weeks staying up until late AM playing FIFA like that was something totally normal. When she threatened to hurt herself if I didn't do what she wanted. She asked me if she could sleep over at my house one night. I told her no. Since I had grandparents visiting the next day. She continued and tried to convince me to let her. She said that if I let her, she would stop cutting. But if I didn't, it would be my fault if she died. I didn't let her. I ditched her the same year. She's still alive to this day, hopefully. She has a girlfriend and is moving out of town soon. Many things, but when she refused to come to my wedding because she hadn't had weight loss surgery yet and didn't want to look fat and frumpy on my wedding day. That was the culmination that led to me severing ties. She used to refer to me as her Duff. The designated ugly fat friend. Then as we grew up, I slimmed down and grew into my appearance rather nicely and she did the opposite. Which infuriated her. She tried to make up a dozen excuses as to why she couldn't be my maid of honor. She couldn't afford to travel to my wedding. I offered to pay for it all. She couldn't afford the dress. Which I also pair for my bridesmaids' dresses. Then when she went on a very lavish and expensive trip to a resort and posted photos on FB, I called her out. That's when she said she didn't want to go and be in pictures because she was having gastric surgery and my wedding was too soon for her to be hot in my wedding line. Heartbreak eggs. At that point, our other mutual friend melted down and literally listed all the ways my best friend was a frenemy and toxic. Feels bad. Man. When he destroyed the entire surface of my main Terraria world with rockets. That evil incarnate. When he kept on trying to jeopardize my sobriety. I would block his number, he would get a new one. I blocked him on all social media, he would create new accounts. I'm going on a year of being sober and to this day he stalks me and tries to get me to slip up. It's quite exhausting running from an abusive ex-BFX dealer while trying to maintain my sanity and sobriety. Oh. And he was going to murder me. I wish he would just drop off the face of the earth. Meth is a hell of a drug. I never want to touch it or be around people that use it ever again. Edit, a word. Second edit. Thank you all for the love and encouragement. I would just like to add that. Yes, I am in therapy and yes, I also attend substance abuse group therapy and no, I will not contact the authorities. When my friend would never criticize himself for his mistakes. He would always blame others and make others just feel downright useless sometimes. Sounds exactly like my friend. He can never admit he's done something wrong and he keeps blaming others. Toxic AF. When I sacrificed a lot of precious family time to help out my friends. Only to get a hell of bullshit and insults from said friends as a thanks. I knew for a long time. But I was done trying the day he threw a knife at a mutual close friend of ours during an argument. That argument started over whether you could correctly call the inside of a strawberry squishy. I shit you not. That's how I ended a decade-long friendship. When she only made me feel bad. That's so simple. But somehow hits closest to home. When I moved states and they didn't notice. When I moved across the country I had a going away party. Gave people a month's notice. The day of I couldn't find anyone to look after the dogs from one group and the dog couple were hour-eyed from another. The party was at my mother's house at the beach where they could both stay and bring the dogs. Of course. These are also the pieces of shit who visited the city I moved to when I moved away from home at least 3 times and I had to find out about it from a mutual friend. They were apparently only great friends when I was willing to cover their dinner and share my weed but not when I wanted to. Like. Be friends. When he started cheating on his GF indiscriminately and then brag about it. And to make matters worse. My then GF was friends with his. So he indirectly involved me in his lies when I had to cover his dumb ass. We ended up fighting over it and aren't really close anymore. I've had that. One of my ex-friends cheating on another of my friends with full knowledge of a large group of us. Expecting us to keep quiet. After a brief discussion we all decided if we were in her situation we'd rather be told. So we told. Self-centered brick right there. When I realized that I was afraid to tell her things because I didn't want to be judged and talked about behind my back. When he lost his sheet that we came second to a group of girls in pub trivia. Then on the car ride home ranted about how it'll never happen again and he refuses to let a group of itches get the better of him. Really disappointing stuff. I realized that while I sometimes enjoyed hanging out with her, I always felt worse we'd meet up. She was the type of person who needed to be cynical to validate her own opinions. So being around her just started to be really taxing. She also tried to make out with me. Despite knowing that I was not interested in her. And in a very serious relationship. That was the death knell. When she started making mean comments about absolutely everyone. Stupid shit like Donna walks like a les. And Katie probably has lice because she scratched her head once. When she said that she wanted an apology from 2 other friends for not including her, when they stopped asking if she wanted to hang out as much because she was always busy and they were terrible at planning. Yet she refused to allow them near her and then she said that the trans one of those 2 other friends should drown in the lake after I posted a pic of us at the lake. When my dad died and my best friend didn't text me. But managed to message a friend, who I previously slept with a few weeks before, of mine for a big dig appointment. He asked her if she had messaged me about my dad. When she said no he said you should message your friend. He was texting me through this situation too. She knew for 5 days that my dad passed. The weekend my dad died I comforted her through a breakup. I hadn't told her then but she found out 2 days later from a mutual friend of ours. I ended the friendship after that. Lost two of the most important people in my life within a week. It occurred to me I hadn't seen her post anything to Facebook for a while. So I checked and she had blocked me. I emailed her to ask what was wrong. Her response was a rambling, manipulative, domineering list of everything she thought I had done imperfectly for the past 2 years, attached to an ultimatum that I accept full responsibility and believe what I was told to believe. The most bizarre of them was when she declared that if I truly understood the basis of friendship I would be a fan of Kanye West. Unfortunately we had a wedding of a mutual friend coming up, so as much fun as it would have been to let her know how I really felt, I didn't want her making a scene at the wedding. So I bit the bullet and told her what she needed to hear and then cut her out of my life entirely. When she was so busy scrolling on her phone, stopping only to tell me that she couldn't be my therapist when I was pouring my heart out about some really difficult stuff, I chalked it up to her own mental health and a shitty method of delivery and tried to stay her friend. After, turns out, it's not just my hardships she doesn't care about. She wasn't excited about any of the great stuff in my life either. She also doesn't give a duck about my needs unless they're somehow able to fulfill hers. That is, concert tickets to her favorite band for my birthday. She deadass will walk 10 feet ahead of me and not notice that my disabled ass is struggling to keep up. I'm expected to be aware of and in support of every single aspect of her life, giving 110% to our friendship, but she'll ignore my messages unless she wants something from me. We've been friends over half my life and I can't even talk to her about feeling like shit because of the way she'll turn it all on me. I'm gonna have to just cut my losses. I can't keep forcing myself to hang out with her when it makes me feel like it. She slept with a guy I was in love with. We weren't in a relationship, but she knew my feelings for him. Slept with him the very night that I confessed that to her, and then later said that he raped her. He did not. I found out much later that she had invited him over and cried and begged to sleep with him. I forgave her and actually let her stay with me over the summer rent-free CZ her housing fell through. Then she proceeded to sleep with another guy I was hooking up with and then flirt with another guy I was potentially wanting to date. Came out in a flimsy bathrobe when he was hanging out with me. And then always played the victim and claimed life had wronged her always. It took me a year, but I completely cut her off when I noticed she was a pathological liar. When he started hitting me and calling me bad things. I can't get away because he always follows me. At least I'll be moving soon. We went through hell together. She was bulimic and hurting herself and I was always supporting her even though I was anorexic and 80 pounds and my body was physically not functioning. I would never ask about myself. She would stay in my house and sleep over during 5th through middle school. I switched schools then. I went to her best friend's party even though I do not like her at all. I went to her 15th. We hadn't talked in months or seen each other. I asked her to join my 16th. It was a small BBQ and she said no because she didn't want to force our friendship because I was bullying her. This is the first time I had fully offered her to do something since we first met in 5th grade. We were in 10th grade. When I discovered that he wasn't a traumatized veteran, but had instead fabricated his entire military experience. He had never served at all. When he openly berated me in front of my flatmates and tried to play it off as a joke. Even though I made it pretty clear that the things he went on about were pretty big insecurities, kept making snide comments about me being unattractive, making fun of my attempts to lose weight, and then got snappy when I got short with him about it. He thought it was fine for him to just be completely itchy just because he was gay. Thankfully he's 100% out of my life now. Don't want anything to do with that guy again. When he said I beat him up. Backstory, I was about 8/9 at the time and had just got out of the shower. I saw him from my bedroom window going to my other friend's next door neighbor house. After I got dressed I sat on my DS for about 10 minutes when me and my mum hear someone pounding at the door. It was his mum. Queen of the Karens. The Susan. She screamed at my mum that I had just assaulted her perfect little angel. My mum then shouted her down and told her I was just out of the shower and her child was a lying little brat. But for this he said I pushed him into a stream when he fell down himself like a jackass. I never got my retribution though. I started to realize that they're toxic after I felt that they're intentionally making me feel out of place because I can't join them when they wanna hang out somewhere or get drunk. I'm not an alcoholic person and they make me feel bad for not joining them have fun. Most of the time. I don't also have enough money to go wherever they wanna go. Hence. Calling me a hilljoy. Now. They're starting to treat me as if I'm no one. Always the last option in the group. No one wants to go with me during lunch. They only notice me when they ask for help on a particular subject. It just makes me sad. When I was injured and housebound for 4 months they went radio silent on me. Apart from a text message telling me it was my fault. I probably had a brittle bone disease if I break a bone aged under 30. Then later told me they didn't contact check in on me on purpose as they don't like needy people. 6 months later in a twist of karma they get injured and are housebound. Start phoning me up asking me for favors. Run errands for the BTC. Which me being forgiving person and for some reason wishing to keep the friendship alive I did. Culminated in them taking a twisted delight in telling me how they had sent thank you flowers to a mutual friend who had popped in on them and how touched they were by their thoughtful gesture, not mentioning me who had basically run myself ragged driving this person around. Fetching buying them stuff and generally trying to keep them happy and not wanting them to feel abandoned like I had. At that point it hit me like a ton of bricks. I wasn't a friend anymore, I was a groupie. Unappreciated and not respected. Cut off all contact and never looked back. There was lots of other incidents in the 2 years preceding this. Such as them telling me my house was crap. Maya was no good and they would never degrade themselves marrying someone who did their job. Encouraging rifts between myself and my family, but I was drinking the Kool-Aid for a long time with this individual and the final straw was the above. She pretended to have millions of dollars but lived in a condo. Always told ridiculous lies like she flew to New York overnight and she had 5 pairs of AirPod and 3 Apple Watches. She just kept them at home. All lies. She was a pathological, compulsive liar who was manipulating and told unbelievable and outrageous lies and expected everyone to believe them. She also was a know-it-all. And used fake facts to make it seem like she was right. I was only friends with her because I was the new kid and no one else was nice to me. To make a long story short, I cut her off. Made new friends. And now I don't even talk to her anymore. When she gave me the silent treatment after I explained why I was hurt that I was left out of plans with all mutual friends. Man. The silent treatment and exclusion is the worst. It's like, instead of to your face bullying, they introduce a middleman and that middleman is your own thoughts. Hope you find a better situation.